It naturally does. And that's just a limitation I have to work with if I choose to keep writing in the first person. So far, I'm accepting that limitation.
Would you ever consider writing through the eyes of a male?
You know, I want to, but I don't want to do it if I can't do it right. I mean, I want to be really convincing. Like Rob Thurman, I was sure Rob Thurman was the guy until he asked him to be in an anthology. And then he said something where I was R-O-B-Y-N, and she is certainly convincing as a young male. And I thought, well, until I can do that well, I don't want to do it, and I'm not real confident in my ability to really inhabit that. But I'm going to try. As soon as I'll try.
Hi, I'm Nikki. I really like Sookie, but I have a sort of different question. You said you've always known you were a writer, and how did you, were you just brushing your teeth and you had this idea, or, how did it come to you to do this, or in any of your stories that you write?
Do you want to talk specifically about Sookie, or?
It doesn't really matter, because a lot of people think, they're like, oh, I want to be a writer, but it has to just come to you, or something just strikes you in the head, it's a great idea, or is it a much more methodical process, or, I'm just trying to, figure out what works for you.
Well, I'll tell you specifically about Lily Bard. I was a young mom when I wrote the Lily Bard books. And I started taking karate, and it was just wonderful. I loved it. I just loved it. But I wanted to start another series too. But I had so few opportunities for learning something else that I had to use every single thing I had. And I had karate. So that was what I started her character from. I thought, okay, I've got this, I can use this. So what kind of woman would devote her life to the study of karate? Well, and then her character evolved backward and forward from that. And I think that worked out pretty well in the end. When it came to Sookie, I could tell that my two conventional mystery series were ending or at an end. And I thought, I want to appeal to a broader readership. I loved writing conventional mysteries, and I love the mystery world, but I want more readers. So I thought, what if I wrote a book that had, some fantasy in it and some sex? If that turned out to be an integral part of the story, I wonder if that would work. And it all did work. My agent just hated it. It took 2 years for him to sell Dead Until Dark. It got turned down time after time after time in very unflattering ways. In fact, he said, do you want me to tell you what they said? And I said, no. No, don't tell me, because it'll just bother me. And then in the end, he sold it to John Morgan at Ace. And John Morgan isn't at Ace anymore. He's with DC Comics. So John took the book, and that all worked out. But for a long time, it was as though it wouldn't.
One of the things I really love about your books, and I've read Lily and I've read Harper and I've read Sookie, is you always seem to mention something here that becomes a major plot line later. Is that something you do consciously? And how do you do that? Because that's one of my big problems with writing, is being like, okay, I need to make this here because I know something's going to happen later.
In later books, you're saying? That's really, I just keep planning stuff. I plan a lot of things thinking something will flower later. Something will come in handy later. I'm sure I have a subterranean brain that's always working on stuff like that, because a lot of my best stuff wasn't consciously done. It just worked out that way, and yet I know part of my brain was working on it and going, oh, this will be good later on. Be sure and plant this bug later on. I was just thinking during Roxanne's class about a character I put in the next book, which is Dead in the Family. And I put her there, and I really like her. But she's not working yet. She doesn't have a purpose. And I thought, I've got to think of some way to use her, unless I'm going to use her later. But everybody has to work in my books. I mean, There's no free ride.
My other question was, how do you come up with names for your characters? Like Sookie's a very unusual name, but just everyone else seems to have a very normal name, which I really like because you don't have crazy name characters that it's hard to read what the name is pronounced like. But how do you come up with names for your characters?
It's a different process for each one. With Sookie, my grandmother's best friend was nicknamed Sookie. So that was easy. And Stackhouse just kind of tripped off the tongue while when I was naming Bill Compton, I ran through the usual list, Antoine. Then I thought, wouldn't it be funny if his name Bill? And I thought, I'm the anti-Anne Rice. Everything, not that I don't love Anne Rice, I do, I love her books, but I thought, Anne had such attitude and such presence with her books, and such atmosphere. I thought, I'm just going to be the rebound. Anne Rice, I'm going to be funny, and my vampires are not going to be, they're going to be able to have sex. Yeah, I thought that was much better.
How did kids react to having mom write about sex?
They don't really talk to me about that. I have to say, my daughter watches the show in a different room. When she hears the theme music, she trots back to the television in my bedroom, and my husband and I watch it on the big TV. So we don't watch it in the same room, but we have talks about the more erotic aspects of the show, and she pretty much knows that this is a television show and not to be connected to her real life. Just because you think this is a way to act, it's not.
Not at all. You brought up a really interesting point about seeding, and I found it so interesting as I read through everything sequentially, that each book can stand alone, and that somehow, some way, without boring a reader, you have managed to reestablish every character, every plot line, every setting. That's what you're talking about, every setting. How do you do that? Is it some kind of a...
It's a constant struggle, because now that I'm on 9 books, I'm writing 10 books, I'm on the 10th book, and I'm going, and every now and then I'll get a reader who will say, do we really need to know what the Merlot shirt looks like? And I think, this is somebody's first book. I can't just skip the entire backstory, because there's going to be a new reader on this book, and they're going to be lost if I don't give them something. At the same time, the backstory is so complex that I can't possibly give them a capsule version without just starting at the beginning and saying, this is what's already happened. I know, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to have a big info dump at the beginning of each book. So I just try to think, what is the most important thing that you need to know about this character when you're encountering them for the first time, though everybody else has already seen them time after time after time. What do you need to know that will make this book look forward? And I still am working on that, because it really is a big struggle and not a problem I've successfully solved. I have no formula for doing it.
But as you get deeper and deeper and deeper into the series, are you fizzling out more and more on giving that backstory? Are you giving less and less with each book?
I am, because it's just impossible. I mean, I'm not going to detail Sookie and Bill's very long and complicated relationship. I'm just going to say, my ex, Bill.
And then you've got to figure that out.
You're just going to have to take it from there on your own. I'm sorry.
And we've also noticed character from one series appear.
Yeah,
That was fun to discover. That was really fun.
I guess I kind of miss Lily, and so I had her come to the bar. I thought, private detective. I know some private detectives already.
And
they can work.
And they're in there.
She's been sitting fallow for too long. She can come work a little bit in the other series.
Do you guys have any more questions?